The sun was setting over the alien city, casting long shadows across the towering spires of the palace. It was a place of mystery and power, where no outsider had ever been allowed to step. But today, a human was about to enter this forbidden world. He was an explorer, a diplomat sent on a mission to meet the leader of the galaxy's most powerful empire, an alien princess. Her name was Lyria, and she was known throughout the galaxy for her strength, her wisdom, and her icy demeanor. People whispered that she was untouchable, a ruler born to command, but not to connect. As the human approached the royal palace, he couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and nervousness. He had read every report, studied every speech the princess had made, and learned about her people's customs. But standing here, just outside the gates, he felt unprepared for what was to come. He had been chosen to represent his planet, Earth, in this delicate diplomatic mission. And the only way to succeed was to find a way to win the princess's favor. The guards at the gate gave him a silent nod, allowing him to enter. His footsteps echoed as he walked through the grand hall, his heart pounding with each step. He had been told that Lyria was waiting for him in the royal chamber, but no one had ever spoken of her true nature. Would she be as cold and distant as everyone said, or would he find something different beneath the surface? The doors to the royal chamber opened with a soft hiss, revealing a tall figure standing in the center of the room. Princess Lyria was clad in flowing silver armor, her long, dark hair cascading around her shoulders. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, locked onto the human as soon as he entered. There was no sign of warmth or kindness in her gaze, only the coolness of a ruler who had seen it all. "Human," she said, her voice smooth but firm. "You are here to negotiate. Speak your purpose." The human bowed respectfully, trying to steady his nerves. "Your Highness," he began, "I come with an offer. A gift, one that I believe will show you the respect we have for your people and the hope we have for our future relations." Lyria raised an eyebrow. "A gift," she repeated, her tone skeptical. "You think a mere gift can sway me?" The human hesitated. He had prepared himself for this moment, but the reality of facing the princess in person was far more intense than he had imagined. "Yes, Your Highness, I believe this gift has the power to change things. It is not just any gift. It is one of great significance." Lyria studied him closely. She said nothing for a long moment, and the silence between them seemed to stretch on forever. Finally, she nodded. "Very well," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Show me this gift." The human, still feeling the weight of the princess's piercing gaze, slowly reached into his bag. His fingers brushed the surface of the object inside, feeling the coolness of its polished edges. He had traveled far across the galaxy to find it, faced countless dangers, and encountered alien cultures he barely understood, all for this moment. Princess Lyria stood silent, watching him carefully. Her expression remained neutral, as if she was waiting for him to fail. He could feel the pressure mounting with each passing second. If this gift didn't impress her, the mission would be over before it even truly began. After what felt like an eternity, the human finally pulled out the small, beautifully crafted box. It was made of a rare material from a distant planet, one that was said to contain ancient secrets. He had been told that this gift would be of great significance to her people, but he wasn't sure of its full power. All he knew was that it had been passed down through generations and had the ability to unlock something hidden within. Lyria's eyes flickered with curiosity as she saw the box in his hands. She stepped forward, her silver armor glinting in the light. The room seemed to grow colder as she drew near, and the human held his breath. "Open it," she commanded, her voice cold and regal. With shaking hands, the human opened the box, revealing an object unlike anything Lyria had ever seen. It was a crystal, but not just any crystal. The deep blue stone seemed to glow with a faint light, as if it held the stars themselves within it. The human had learned that it was called the Heartstone, a rare artifact believed to contain the power to heal and connect distant worlds. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Lyria reached out slowly, her fingers brushing the stone. She seemed to feel something, an energy that no one else could sense. This is impossible, Lyria whispered, her voice barely audible. She stepped back, staring at the Heartstone with wide eyes. How did you find this? The human hesitated, unsure of how to explain the journey that had brought him here. It was said to be lost to time, Your Highness, but I believed it was real. I believed it could help. Lyria was still in shock, her mind racing. The Heartstone was a legend, a myth among her people. Some believed it could unlock the potential of the universe itself, while others thought it was merely a fairy tale. But now, here it was, in her hands. She looked up at the human, her expression softening for the first time. There was something about him, a quiet determination that had led him to find this artifact. She couldn't deny the power it held. Why? She asked, her voice now curious. Why would you risk so much for a gift? The human smiled faintly, his eyes meeting hers. Because I believe in the future of this galaxy, and I believe in you, Princess. This gift is for you, to help you change the course of history. For the first time, Lyria felt a spark of something unfamiliar, a feeling she couldn't quite place. She had always been taught to stay distant, to rule with strength and control. But in that moment, she felt something stir deep inside her, a connection she had never imagined possible. The room felt heavier now, filled with the weight of the Heartstone's power. Lyria held the glowing crystal carefully, as though afraid it might slip away if she wasn't cautious enough. The human, standing just a few feet away, watched her closely, his heart still racing from the intensity of the moment. Lyria's fingers traced the surface of the crystal, feeling the strange warmth that seemed to pulse within it. She had heard the legends about the Heartstone, how it was said to hold the secrets of her people's past and the power to change the future. But no one had ever believed the stories. No one had ever thought the Heartstone could be real. Yet here it was in her hands, a tangible thing that felt as though it carried the weight of generations. She looked at the human, her brow furrowing. How did you find this? She asked again, her voice still full of disbelief. The human hesitated, unsure how much he should reveal. I didn't know where it was, he said quietly, but I believed it was out there. So I followed the clues, visited forgotten worlds, ancient ruins, places most people would never dream of going. And eventually, I found it. Lyria's eyes narrowed as she studied him. He had risked so much, traveled to the farthest reaches of space, all for this. She had to admit, a part of her respected that determination. But there was still a question that weighed on her mind. Why me? She asked. Why bring this to me? The human met her gaze, his eyes calm but sincere. Because you are more than just a princess. You are the key to something much bigger. I believe this gift will show you that. And I believe you can use it to shape a future for your people, one where they are no longer trapped in the past. Lyria's heart skipped a beat. His words struck a chord deep inside her, stirring something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Hope. She had always known her destiny was tied to her people's fate, but she had never been sure of how she could lead them to a better future. Could this Heartstone be the answer? She glanced down at the crystal once more, feeling the surge of energy course through her fingertips. It was as if the stone was calling to her, urging her to make a choice. The decision was hers to make, but the path it offered was unclear. The human seemed to sense her uncertainty. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. I know this is a lot to ask, but I have faith in you. This is not just a gift. It's an opportunity for change. Lyria's breath caught in her throat. For the first time, she saw him not as just a foreign diplomat, but as an ally, someone who truly believed in her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the Heartstone in her hands, and in that silence, something shifted. Lyria's walls, built over years of duty and expectations, began to crack. She took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around the crystal. She was no longer just a princess. She was the future. The grand hall was silent, save for the soft rustle of the princess's robes as she slowly moved to the center of the room. The heartstone was still in her hands, glowing softly as if it were alive, as if it were waiting for something. Lyria stood motionless, her eyes locked on the crystal, her thoughts racing. The human stood a few steps behind her, unsure of what to say. He had given her the gift, but he knew the hardest part was still to come. The gift itself was just a symbol, an opening. What truly mattered was whether the princess would accept it, not just the heartstone, but everything it represented. Lyria finally turned to face him. Her expression was serious, but there was something different in her eyes now, a flicker of something human, something he hadn't seen before. "I can feel it," she said softly, her voice steady, but with a slight tremor. "This artifact, it's not just a relic, it's more than that." The human nodded, carefully stepping forward. "It's meant to unlock the future, Your Highness. It's meant to show you the path forward, your people's path forward." Lyria's fingers tightened around the heartstone. She didn't know whether to be terrified or excited. Her people, her royal family, had always ruled with power and tradition. But this was different. This wasn't a tool for domination. It was a key to something else, a key to change. "Change," she murmured to herself. "I never thought change was something I could bring to my people." The human watched her, sensing the internal battle she was facing. She had spent her entire life preparing for a future that was already set in stone. The path had been drawn for her. But this gift, this heartstone, had the power to change everything. Lyria's gaze lifted to meet his. "What is it that you believe, human? Do you think I am capable of leading my people down this unknown path?" The question surprised him. It was one of vulnerability, something he had never expected to hear from a leader like her. He could see the doubt in her eyes, the weight of responsibility she carried. "I believe in you, Princess Lyria," the human said firmly, his voice carrying a quiet confidence. "I've seen the strength in your people, but strength is not just in the power you wield. It's in the choices you make, and I believe you have the courage to make the right choice." Lyria remained silent for a long time, staring at the heartstone in her hands. Her fingers traced the smooth surface again, the soft glow reflecting in her eyes. She could feel the pull of the past and the weight of her family's expectations, but she could also feel something new, the possibility of something better. Slowly, she raised her head, her eyes now filled with determination. "I will not let my people remain trapped in the past. This heartstone, this gift, will not be just a symbol. It will be the first step toward a new future, a future where we are not bound by tradition, but guided by the strength to change." The human smiled, relief flooding through him. He had done it. He had not only found the perfect gift, but he had also given Lyria the courage to take the first step. Together, they would face the unknown future. The room was still, as if the very air held its breath. Princess Lyria stood in the center, the heartstone now resting in the palm of her hand. Its glow filled the space around her, casting soft shadows on the stone walls. She could feel its power, a strange warmth spreading from the stone into her fingertips, making her pulse quicken. The human stood nearby, waiting for her reaction. His face was unreadable, but she could see the hope in his eyes. He believed in her, and somehow, that belief made the pressure even heavier. She wasn't just a princess anymore. She was the future of her people. The weight of that truth settled on her shoulders, making her feel both small and enormous at the same time. Slowly, she lifted the heartstone closer to her face, examining it with a mixture of awe and fear. The legends had always spoken of its power, but never had she truly believed it could be real. Yet, here it was, undeniable, in her hands. What was she supposed to do with it? What did it mean? For a long moment, she was silent, lost in her thoughts. The human didn't speak, knowing that this was her moment, her decision to make. Finally, Lyria looked up, meeting his gaze. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but filled with a rare intensity. This artifact is more than I could have ever imagined. It's, it's a part of my people's past, but it also holds something else, something I can't quite understand yet. The human nodded, his face still calm. That's why it's a gift. It's meant to help you find the answers. It's not just a symbol, Princess Lyria. It's a key to a new beginning. Lyria felt a twinge in her chest at his words. A new beginning. It was exactly what she had been afraid of. Change was difficult, especially for someone like her who had been trained her whole life to uphold the old ways. But now, looking at the Heartstone, she realized that maybe change wasn't something to fear. Maybe it was something to embrace. She took a deep breath and slowly walked toward a nearby table, placing the Heartstone gently on its surface. Her hand lingered over the stone, her fingers just brushing the surface. She could feel the energy coursing through her, as if the Heartstone were calling to her, urging her to take the next step. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. The human stepped closer, his eyes full of understanding. "Now you decide what comes next. The Heartstone has shown you the way, but it's your choice whether to walk down that path." Lyria's heart raced as she considered his words. She had always felt like she was trapped in her role, bound by the expectations of her family and her people. But now, for the first time, she felt like she had a choice to forge her own future, one that could change everything. With a quiet resolve, Lyria looked at the human, her voice steady. "Then I will walk this path. I will make the change that is needed." The human's face softened with a smile. "I knew you would." And just like that, the course of the galaxy began to shift. The next few days passed in a blur of excitement and uncertainty. Princess Lyria spent countless hours studying the Heartstone, trying to understand its true power. She had sensed something more than just its glowing surface, the way it seemed to pulse with energy, as if it were alive. But she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something hidden, something deeper within it that she had yet to uncover. The human, who had stayed by her side during this time, was patient, offering quiet support as she examined the artifact. He knew that the Heartstone wasn't just a gift, it was the key to her future. But he also knew that its true meaning was something Lyria had to discover for herself. One evening, after a long day of study, Lyria sat alone in her chamber, the Heartstone resting on a table before her. The dim light of the room flickered as she leaned closer, her eyes scanning the surface. There had to be something she was missing, something that would reveal the full extent of the Heartstone's power. Then, as her fingers brushed the surface of the crystal, a sudden shift occurred. The light of the Heartstone seemed to grow brighter, and for the first time, Lyria felt a surge of energy so strong it almost knocked her back. She gasped, pulling her hand away. The stone hummed, vibrating as if reacting to her touch. Lyria stared at the stone, her heart racing. "What is this?" she whispered to herself. The air around her seemed to thicken, and she could almost hear a faint whisper, as if the stone was speaking to her. Suddenly, the surface of the Heartstone began to shift. Lines of ancient writing appeared, glowing faintly. Lyria leaned forward, her eyes widening in disbelief. The writing was in a language she had never seen before, but something about it felt familiar, as if it had always been a part of her. Her fingers hovered over the glowing symbols, her mind racing. She reached out once more, touching the stone gently. This time, instead of pulling away, she focused all her energy on understanding what the Heartstone was trying to show her. The symbols shifted again, rearranging themselves into a clear message. Lyria's heart skipped a beat as the meaning of the words slowly became clear to her. It was a prophecy, one that had been hidden away for generations. Only the one who holds the Heartstone can awaken the ancient power of the kingdom. The path is not easy, and the future is uncertain. But the one who chooses to lead with courage will unlock the destiny of their people. Lyria's breath caught in her throat. The prophecy spoke of her destiny. She was the one chosen to unlock the future of her people, to lead them into a new era. But the road ahead wouldn't be simple. She had to have the courage to face the unknown, to make decisions that would change everything. As the writing faded away, The Heartstone's glow dimmed, leaving Lyria sitting in stunned silence. She realized that the Heartstone had not just shown her a glimpse of her future, it had given her the responsibility to shape it. She stood slowly, her mind racing with the weight of what she had just discovered. There was no turning back now. The future was in her hands, and it was time to act. The days following Lyria's discovery of the prophecy were filled with both excitement and fear. She couldn't shake the weight of the Heartstone's message. It had made her realize that her destiny wasn't just about ruling her people, it was about changing everything. She had to lead her people into an unknown future, one that would require courage, wisdom, and strength. But as the weight of this new responsibility settled on her shoulders, she also found herself relying more and more on the human who had brought her the Heartstone. His presence was steady, calm, and comforting. He had believed in her from the start, and now she was beginning to believe in herself too. Each day they spent more time together, talking about the future, sharing their thoughts and fears. The human, whose name she had learned was Ezra, had a way of making her think about things in a new light. He didn't come from her world, but he understood the importance of change. He had shown her that sometimes it wasn't enough to follow the rules. Sometimes you had to break them in order to create something better. One evening, as they sat in her chamber, looking out over the vast expanse of the palace grounds, Lyria turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "Ezra," she said quietly, "I don't know if I'm ready for this. I've been trained my whole life to follow a path that's already been laid out for me. But now, with the Heartstone, everything is different." Ezra looked at her, his gaze gentle but filled with understanding. "You don't have to have all the answers right now, Lyria. You've already shown strength by accepting the responsibility. And that's the first step. You're not alone in this." Lyria met his gaze, her heart swelling with gratitude. There was something in his eyes, a belief in her that she had never seen in anyone else. It was a feeling she hadn't expected, but it was exactly what she needed. She had always been isolated in her role as princess, but with Ezra, she no longer felt like she had to carry the weight of the world alone. "What if I fail?" she asked, her voice tinged with doubt. "What if I can't change anything? What if my people don't follow me?" Ezra smiled, a warm, reassuring smile. "Then we'll find another way. Together, you have the strength to lead, and you've already begun to do so. Your people will follow you because they believe in you. But it's not just about them, Lyria. It's about you too. You need to believe in yourself." Lyria felt a spark of hope. His words seemed to reach into the deepest part of her, awakening something she hadn't known was there. For the first time, she began to see herself as more than just a princess. She was a leader. She was capable of making choices that would shape the future of her people. She wasn't alone. The silence that followed was comfortable. Lyria leaned back, her eyes looking out at the stars. She felt the weight of her destiny, but it didn't feel as heavy as it once did. With Ezra by her side, she knew she could face whatever came next. "Thank you, Ezra," she said softly. Ezra didn't say anything. He simply gave her a reassuring nod. The bond between them had grown stronger with each passing day. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, one step at a time. The days seemed to pass in a blur of preparations. Princess Lyria had accepted her new role, and the heart of her people was beginning to stir. She had spoken of change, of a new future, and already whispers were spreading throughout the kingdom. But with each step forward, the tension in the air grew thicker. Change was coming, but not everyone was ready for it. Lyria had hoped the Heartstone's power would bring hope to her people, but she hadn't expected it to stir up such strong emotions. Some welcomed the idea of a new beginning, but others, especially the old advisors and the royal family, saw it as a threat. The Heartstone, they believed, was dangerous. It was not a symbol of hope, but a tool of uncertainty. One afternoon, as Lyria walked through the palace halls, she was stopped by one of her trusted advisors, Lord Kalen. His face was stern, and his eyes were filled with concern. "Your Highness," he said, bowing deeply, "there are rumors among the council. They fear the Heartstone. They fear what it means for the future of our kingdom. Lyria felt a knot form in her stomach. What do they fear, Lord Callan? They fear that the Heartstone's power will lead us away from tradition. They fear that your choices, Your Highness, will disrupt the balance that has kept our kingdom strong for centuries. Lyria's thoughts raced. She had known that not everyone would embrace the changes she wanted to make, but she hadn't expected such strong resistance from those she had trusted. They don't understand, she said, her voice filled with frustration. This is about saving our people. This is about a future where we are no longer bound by the past. Lord Callan's expression softened, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. I know you believe that, Princess, but you must understand, not everyone shares your vision. There are many who see this as a betrayal of our ancestors. Lyria took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside her. She had expected some pushback, but this felt different. It wasn't just opposition. It was fear. Fear of losing everything that had come before. That evening, as she sat alone in her chamber, she couldn't help but wonder if she had made a mistake. Had she moved too quickly? Had she pushed her people too far, too fast? The Heartstone had shown her the way forward, but now it seemed to be tearing her kingdom apart. The sound of a soft knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. She turned to see Ezra standing in the doorway, his expression concerned. Lyria, he said softly, stepping inside. What's wrong? She didn't answer right away, unsure of how to explain the turmoil inside her. I thought this would be easier, she finally admitted. I thought they would see what I see the future we could have. But now, it feels like I'm fighting everyone I trust. Ezra walked over and sat beside her, his voice gentle. Change is always hard, but you can't let fear stop you. If you believe in this, in what you can do for your people, then you have to stay true to it. Lyria looked at him, her heart heavy. I'm afraid, Ezra. I'm afraid that I'll lose everything trying to make things better. Ezra placed a hand on hers. You won't lose everything. But you have to be willing to fight for what's right, even if it's hard. Your people are waiting for you to lead. Don't let fear take that away. Lyria nodded slowly, feeling a spark of resolve return. She wasn't going to give up. She couldn't. The future of her people depended on her. The sun was setting behind the palace walls, casting a warm glow over the land. But for Princess Lyria, the beauty of the moment was lost in the storm of thoughts swirling in her mind. The past few days had been filled with tension, uncertainty, and conflict. Her people were divided. Some wanted to embrace the change she promised, but others, especially the old advisors and members of the royal family, were fearful of what the Heartstone's power might mean. Lyria stood on the balcony, looking out at the kingdom she was supposed to lead. The Heartstone, now resting safely in her chambers, felt heavier than ever. She had hoped it would bring her people together, but instead, it seemed to be pulling them apart. The old ways, the traditions she had once believed in, were now at odds with the future she envisioned. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized that she couldn't turn back. She had already made her choice, and there was no going back now. The door behind her opened, and she turned to see Ezra walking toward her. His presence was calming, a reminder that no matter what happened, she wasn't alone. He had stood by her side from the beginning, and she was beginning to trust him more than anyone else. Lyria, Ezra said gently, his voice soft yet filled with concern. I can see that something's weighing on you. What are you thinking? Lyria sighed, feeling the weight of her decision. I never imagined it would be this hard, she said, her voice tinged with doubt. The Heartstone was meant to bring hope, but instead, it's causing fear and division. My people, they don't understand. They don't see what I see. Ezra stepped closer, his gaze steady. It's not easy, but that's often the way of change. People are afraid of what they don't understand. But you've already taken the first step. You've shown them that there's a new path, a new future. The rest will follow. Lyria turned to face him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. What if they don't follow Ezra? What if they reject everything I'm trying to build? Ezra reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. Then we will find another way. You've already given them a choice, but at the end of the day, you can't make their decision for them. All you can do is stay true to what you believe. Lyria looked at him, feeling the sincerity in his words. She had always been taught to lead with strength, to never show doubt. But now she was realizing that true leadership wasn't about power. It was about making the hard choices and standing firm in those choices, no matter how difficult. I've made my decision, Lyria said finally, her voice strong. I'm not going to let fear dictate our future. We will move forward together. And if that means standing against the traditions that have held us back for so long, then so be it. Ezra smiled, his eyes filled with pride. I knew you had it in you. Lyria took a deep breath, feeling a sense of clarity that had been missing for so long. She knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, and there would be obstacles along the way. But she also knew that she couldn't turn back. The future of her people depended on the choices she made now. Thank you, Ezra, she said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. You've helped me find the strength I needed. Always, he replied, his voice warm. You're not alone in this, Lyria. I'll be by your side, no matter what. And with that, Lyria knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she was ready. She had made her decision, and she would lead her people into the future with strength and courage. The sun had risen higher, casting a warm, golden light over the palace grounds. Lyria stood at the window, looking out at her kingdom, the Heartstone safely tucked in her chambers. Today was the day she would make her decision known to everyone. No more hiding, no more uncertainty. She had chosen her path, and she was ready to lead her people into the future. She could hear the whispers of her people outside, the voices of those who were both curious and fearful of the changes she had promised. But she had made up her mind. She would not let fear or doubt control her anymore. This was her kingdom, and she would guide it to a new dawn. Ezra stood beside her, his presence comforting as always. His quiet support had meant more to her than he knew. Together, they had come a long way from the moment he had first brought her the Heartstone. She had learned to trust him. And now she knew that whatever happened, they would face it together. I'm ready, Lyria said softly, her voice steady. Ezra looked at her, his eyes filled with pride. You've got this, Lyria. You've already shown the strength inside you. Now it's time to show them. Lyria took a deep breath and turned to face the room. She had called for a gathering of the kingdom's leaders, the council of advisors, and the royal family. It was time for them to see the future she envisioned, the future she would lead them into. As she walked into the hall, she could feel the tension in the air. The faces of the council were stiff with skepticism, their eyes filled with doubt. But she was not afraid. She had made her decision, and she would not back down. The room fell silent as she stepped forward, her eyes meeting the eyes of each council member. She could feel the weight of their expectations, but she stood tall, her heart beating with determination. The Heartstone is not just a gift, she began, her voice carrying through the room. It is a symbol of our future, a future where we are not bound by the past, but one where we can build something better. Our traditions have held us together for generations, but they have also kept us from moving forward. I believe that the future we can create is far greater than the one we've been clinging to. The council members exchanged glances, their expressions guarded. But Lyria stood firm, her voice growing stronger with every word. I know change is hard, she continued, but we cannot stand still. We must move forward, or we will be left behind. I will lead this kingdom into the future, with or without your support. And I will do it with the belief that the Heartstone is the key to unlocking the strength and potential of our people. There was a long silence after her words, the room heavy with the weight of her declaration. Then, one by one, the council members began to speak. Some were still doubtful, but others, seeing her resolve, began to nod in agreement. The seed of change had been planted. Ezra stepped forward and stood beside her, offering her the silent support she needed. He had believed in her from the start, and now Lyria could see that the others were beginning to believe in her too. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Lyria was ready. The kingdom would change, and she would lead them into the new dawn. Together, with courage and hope, they would face whatever came next.